Here's your wrestling news for October 4th, 2020. And your headlines for today include: original plans for Mike Tyson, Chris Jericho in AEW revealed. Roman Reigns rumored to lead new WWE stable. WWE superstar is fired for not knowing Stephanie McMahon. Is WWE rehashing Emmalina's story with Carmella now? Carmella reacts. Edge credits current AEW star for teaching him an important lesson. The Undertaker was prepared to shoot-fight Shawn Michaels after famous WWE WrestleMania moment. WWE star saved a man and two wieners on his day off from WWE. Dominik Mysterio reveals there's still talks of him wearing a mask in WWE, and more. We're kicking off with AEW news today, as Chris Jericho recently put Orange Cassidy over in a big way with their all-out Mimosa Mayhem match, but that may have never happened if AEW stuck to their original plans. During his Saturday night special, Jericho revealed that he was originally slated to face Mike Tyson until the boxing legend's schedule was changed due to his fight against Roy Jones Jr. Jericho said, "Originally, I was supposed to work with Mike Tyson at the September pay-per-view, All Out 2, and we just couldn't get it done in time. The second match I had with Orange Cassidy was originally going to be the Mimosa Mayhem match, but we moved it to the rubber match position. Whilst the Tyson-Jones match took precedence, this has now been pushed back, but there wasn't enough time for the Tyson-Jericho feud to begin, and though we haven't seen the last of Iron Mike in AEW, fans will have to wait until after his huge boxing payday on November 28th. Over to WWE now, and Roman Reigns has promised his cousin Jey Uso another shot at the Universal title, but it may not be too much longer until the cousins are on the same side. According to Wrestling News, WWE is considering a stable with Roman as the leader, which would also include Jey and Jimmy, who's currently out of action with a knee injury, as well as others to be added in the future. It's possible that this group could be formed due to some kind of stipulation from their Hell in a Cell match, and after years of being a member of a stable, it'll be interesting to see how the Tribal Chief works as the leader of his own group, if WWE pulls the trigger on these plans. We're focusing on Amy Zijian next, and if that name doesn't ring a bell, there's a reason why. A finalist in the 2006 Diva Search, Zijian was signed by the company after coming up short, but was promptly released after being partnered with Jimmy Wang Yang as his on-screen girlfriend. On Tommy Dreamer's House of Hardcore podcast, Yang explained how a simple taping started the end of Zijian's tenure, saying, "Stephanie McMahon walks by, and Amy reaches over and says, 'Hey, I'm Amy, who are you?' I left. She didn't know who Stephanie McMahon was. Stephanie blew it off because she was a Diva Search girl, so they don't know wrestling." After Yang believed that the matter was swept under the rug, a second similar incident occurred as he explained, "I heard she was in the locker room with Vicky Guerrero. They're having their girl talk, and she asked Vicky, 'So how'd you get in the business?' I think that's the one that blew up." It doesn't help your career if you don't know who the boss's daughter and one of WWE's most natural heels are, and who knows what could have happened or what Zijian could have achieved if she'd known more about WWE. Over to SmackDown next, and this week's show saw Sasha Banks cut a promo on Bayley, calling the SmackDown Women's Champion a bitch, but the energy from this segment seemed very familiar. Fans will remember Sonya Deville cutting a promo against her former friend Mandy Rose, using that same insult, and a fan page for the former MMA fighter tweeted out a comparison between the two promos. One person who caught this similarity was Deville herself, as she mentioned it during her Instagram story, saying, "I see you, Sasha Banks, you bad." Whilst Deville lost her Loser Leaves WWE match at SummerSlam, she's still a part of the WWE roster, and we'll have to see what the Jersey Devil has to say to the boss the next time they're in the same arena. This week's SmackDown also saw the return of Carmella, who was revealed as SmackDown's Mystery Woman, though not everyone is a fan of the new Untouchable gimmick. Online, several fans claimed that WWE was rehashing the failed Emmalina gimmick from a few years back, and fans theorized that, like the former gimmick of Tenille Dashwood, Carmella would come out, not do anything, and promptly be forgotten. Responding to fans comparing her gimmick to Emmalina, Carmella said, "You have no idea what you're in for, haven't even scratched the surface yet, babe." After Emmalina was dropped and Dashwood was released, the WWE seemingly did something similar with Lana, which didn't go anywhere, and hopefully Carmella will be able to make her new untouchable gimmick work and not be a rehash of Emmalina. One person fans won't see in the ring for a while is Edge, who continues to rehab from his tricep injury, but that hasn't stopped him from speaking about his career. Appearing on Busted Open Radio, the Hall of Famer explained that early on in his career, Edge faced Luther in a street fight and revealed that the AEW star gave him some sound advice, saying, "He calls this spot and I immediately went to do it, and he went, 'Whoa, hold on, pump the brakes, you got it?' I was like, 'Oh, I don't have to do it right away.' I can actually stop and register what he says instead of just instantly go. I never forgot that lesson." It's this lesson, and countless others, that helped to make Edge into an 11-time WWE World Champion. And though he's on the shelf now, we're sure the Rated R Superstar is planning to return when he's all healed up. One person who knows a thing or two about Edge is The Undertaker, who's faced all the greats in his career, including Shawn Michaels. Older fans will remember Michaels losing the WWF title to Steve Austin at WrestleMania 14, ushering in the Austin era, but there were some worries that Michaels would refuse to lose to the Rattlesnake, especially after Montreal a few months prior. One person who was at WrestleMania 14 was JR, who spoke on his Grillin' JR podcast about the dead man making sure things went according to plan, saying, "Undertaker stood stoically by the gorilla position when Shawn Michaels was wrestling Steve Austin at WrestleMania 14. If anybody decided not to do business with the championship, he probably got the shit beat out of him. When Undertaker wanted to beat the shit out of you, there's not a whole lot you can do about it." Fortunately, the dead man wasn't needed, as Michaels lost the gold in what'd be his last match for over 4 years, and Austin's rise to the top of the entirety of wrestling at the time went off without a hitch. Over to Impact Wrestling now, and after his April 15th release from WWE, Heath Slater has finally earned himself a deal with his new home. Debuting at Slammiversary, the story has been that Slater was never signed by Impact, resulting in him having to sneak onto the show in disguises, but now that's a thing of the past. After his and Rhino's win at Victory Road over Reno Scum in an unsanctioned match, Scott D'Amore informed Heath that they'll sign his paperwork on this Tuesday's Impact, and we'll have to see where Heath's career goes now that he's an official Impact Wrestling star. Now, as a producer for WWE, Pat Buck is a busy man, but he doesn't slow down even on his day off. On Twitter, Buck revealed that during his day off, he went to fetch his laundry when he came across a man having a seizure, though he was fortunately able to get the man help. That wasn't the end of Buck's adventure though, as he later spotted a woman who'd lost control of her 2 dachshunds, and after they'd escaped the leash and run off, Buck chased them down and put them back on the leash. Describing his day as, "A man and 2 wieners were saved today." It's good to see Buck keep busy on his days off, especially if he's helping those around him. We are looking once again at WWE's new edict taking control over the superstars' Twitch and Cameo accounts, as Ryback has weighed in on the controversial situation. This new rule means that WWE gets the earnings of what a superstar makes with Twitch and Cameo, and the person who actually earned it gets a percentage of that money. And during Ryback TV, the big guy blasted the new policy, saying, "This is greed at its finest. I understand protecting your brand, but when the talent have a choice. If everyone said, 'We're not doing this,' they wouldn't be able to do anything about it." Ryback also added that every superstar's contract should be restructured, which should include a raise to make up for lost earnings, and while we doubt WWE will listen to their former employee, who's had plenty of negative things to say about the company in the past, we're sure that Ryback isn't the only person in wrestling angry about this new rule. And finally today we're ending with news from Dominik Mysterio, as he continues to represent his family on Raw, and may soon be getting his very own mask. While speaking to Chris Van Vliet, Dominik revealed that there's still talks for him donning a mask like his father, and there's also talks for him going as Prince Mysterio, the name his father trademarked, which is a play on Rey Mysterio, meaning King of Mystery. Dominik added, "We would like to get into the traditions of Lucha Libre, which would be putting a mask on me and taking on the name, but I think that's all down the line in the future." The young superstar also pointed out that him wearing a mask is odd considering that fans know his face already, though he added that he could come up with a unique way to bring a mask into his character, and added that the goal is to become Prince Mysterio eventually. We'll have to wait and see how long it takes for Dominik to earn the Prince moniker, but for now, the young superstar continues to impress fans with his ability every single week.